Well, Vodacom released their annual results today. For the 12 months ended March 2025, the telecoms group reported total revenue of 152.2 billion rand. That's up 1.1% on the year before. It noted good performance from its financial services division, seeing revenue up 7.6% to 14 billion rand, which now accounts for 11.6% of group service revenue. Being a Pan-African player, the company had to deal with some exchange rate challenges, which impacted on its numbers. Vodacom delivered headline earnings per share of 857 cents. That's up 1.3% on the year before. Well, to take us behind the numbers, I'm joined by Shameel Joosub. He's the CEO at Vodacom. Thanks very much, Shameel, for joining us. So it sounds like the second half of the year was better than the first. Perhaps you can give us a sense of how the various service divisions and geographies you operate in performed in the year under review.
Thank you, and thank you for having me on the show. It was really a much stronger second half. I think the first half being impacted by the devaluation in Ethiopia, which of course impacted our earnings during the period. A very strong recovery in the second half. We had a very good performance, firstly in South Africa, in terms of our prepaid revenue growth, stepping up quite nicely in the second half. Then Egypt still have a 49% revenue growth for the year, so very, very strong performance all round, coming from growth in mobile services, content, fiber, and of course fintech being the standout there with 80% growth. Very good growth in Ethiopia, and with customers growing over 100% and revenue growing 239%. Kenya producing double-digit growth, so very strong there, and then all our international markets growing quite strongly. We did have some one-offs in the DRC and repricing in Mozambique, but generally, was a strong performance in revenues. And then of course from a financial services perspective, and our beyond mobile strategy, we've seen a nice uplift and continuous growth in that segment, now processing $450 billion of transactions annually.
Yeah, it looks very good on the face of things. But just tell us a little bit about the experience in the DRC. Of course, we've been hearing a lot about stuff going on there. Of course, problems were really concentrated in the north thereof. But did that have any adverse impact on your numbers in that country?
It does. And I mean, we had similar issues in Kenya. Not wars, but of course political unrest, both in Kenya and Mozambique during the year. In the DRC, we're continuing to operate, but of course you have issues in terms of growth rates in those particular areas, because you have to make sure that your staff is safe first and foremost. So there will invariably be sites that are out of use. And then we can only get to the sites when it's safe to do so.
Yeah. So I see in the period under review, you invested around 12 billion rand in terms of capex, and you plan to invest a further 20 billion in the next financial year. Where have you been investing for growth?
So it's actually 20 billion last year and another 20 billion this year, of which 11.6 billion is in South Africa alone. So we continue to invest. That will step up to closer to 12 billion. For South Africa alone. Of course, we continue to invest quite heavily in Egypt as we're seeing the growth and the monetization of that growth. And then, of course, also investing heavily into Ethiopia as it's a startup and you're still having to roll out in that market. So, and then, making sure that we invest across all our markets. Telcos, you have to continuously invest.
Yes, absolutely. Shameel, one last thing. You've decided to appeal to the competition tribunals on the competition tribunal's decision to prohibit Vodacom's acquisition of a stake in the fiber company Mazif. To what extent was your decision influenced by what appears to be some support that was lent to you by the Minister of Trade and Industry and Competition? And just remind us of the merits if this were to succeed.
Well, I think, hugely disappointed that we didn't get the approvals, especially after working through it in the tribunal and the interveners, being our competitors, being supportive of the deal because of the remedies that had been offered. So it was hugely disappointing that they didn't approve, given also the impact in terms of 10,000 new jobs, 1 million rural homes that would have been covered, and the capital investment, another 10 billion of investment that would have gone in, and this transaction itself being 14 billion. So it would have changed the face of fiber in South Africa and helped to accelerate fiber growth. So, that's why we're appealing the decision. And of course, we joined in that appeal by the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition.
Yeah.
Which is quite, because we negotiated a lot of these, let's call it public interest benefits with them. So they clearly see the benefits of the deal.
Shameel?
So now we wait.
Indeed, you wait, and all the very best with that, given that it will impact South Africans greatly and positively. Shameel, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time. That was Shameel Joosub. He's the CEO at Vodacom.